I think, it is a real perfect storm of sorts because there's a lot of change and churn happening. However, to keep in mind, this perfect storm is actually great news for some and terrible news for others. So it's not just the two sides of the story. So on one hand, I think the long-term story for India basically means that the banking sector will remain and always remain a very strong growth story and a great investment prospect for players. A lot of digital disruptions will make accessing this opportunity even more efficient and value creating. So you'll see a lot of interest in investments coming in that context. At the same time, if you look at the current state of the banking system, a large number of the banks are heavily constrained by the NPAs in the system. And that is something that will take time to resolve and sort through. So their attention is entirely diverted towards trying to deal with these assets for the large part. And that actually, in some ways constrains them, both in terms of capital and management bandwidth. So we have a situation where, on one hand, you have a constrained banking system that's not growing because, partly because of the industrial part of the economy not borrowing as much, and you have, on the other hand, a whole bunch of very interesting new innovations and platforms coming in with investments backing them, which will actually create new business models and new ways of doing banking.
Mm-hmm. I want to speak at length about the stressed asset problem. 6 lakh crore, in fact 9 lakh crore is the total amount of NPAs that we could say rest in the banking system. What do banks do with it? I mean, we are talking about capital constraints as well. How do you put the two together? It's very easy to say that banks could take haircuts or even banks could liquidate assets. But in the practical way, what is the way forward?
Yeah, so look, I think for a growing economy like India, it's very important to actually have resolution as opposed to liquidation. Liquidation of these assets, the banks will recover very little money. It also has knock-on effects on the economy in terms of lost investment, loss in jobs, and so on and so forth. The resolution is important. But resolution, what I mean is there has to be a way that the stressed company is able to resume operations, produce, contribute to the economy, generate cash flows, and repay the bank's debts over a period of time. So what's important is find the right resolution path. And when you find the right resolution path, you've got to get investors to come in, put money in to restart operations. And that is a process that's important to actually go through. Historically, the fact that the industry has been highly fragmented with many banks, 20, 30 banks lending through the same company, has made it very difficult to come to a kind of an agreed resolution path. Also, a large part of the state-owned, of the banking system being state-owned, has basically meant that the clearing mechanism for price, if you may, and who's going to be the buyer of these assets has not been straightforward.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/ETNow.